Hey chatters, my name is Joe. I'm the CEO of Synaptic Labs. Over here, we've trained thousands of professionals on how to use AI responsibly and practically. We're also the creators of the Professor Synapse prompt, which has over 100,000 uses in the GPT store. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to use each of ChatGPT's various tools so that you can be better equipped to actually fully leverage this generative AI provider. Let's get into it. The first tool that we're going to be going over is something called the Canvas tool. If we come to the plus over here and down to more, you should see this canvas. We can click that, but you don't have to. You can just say, hey, I want you to use your canvas. If you want to make sure it uses the canvas, you can do that, but I'm just going to tell it to use the canvas. And what we're going to do is create a side window where we have the text that we're working on. So we're going to have a little fun here. I'm just going to have it write me a poem about how amazing Synaptic Labs is at teaching people, and we're going to stick that in a canvas, and then we're going to work with it. You can see once I do it, it's put the text in this little box here, and it says, okay, here's a fresh poem. So we have some options. We can copy. That'll just make it so you can copy, paste, edit, or download. You can do different file formats, PDF, Microsoft Markdown, but we want to go over to this edit button. And when we click the edit button, it's going to give us this nice little side page where we can actually interact more directly with the text that it came up with. So we have our prompt right here. I can obviously come down and just keep writing whatever I want. This is essentially like its own little Word doc. I can also delete whatever I want to delete, which is obviously useful so that now you can just go in and make these changes instead of telling the AI, hey, can you change this one sentence to say this instead? We have a variety of useful functionality in ChatGPT with the canvas though, beyond you just editing it directly. The first is if you highlight a section and you come over here, you're going to see that we have this little comment box. So I can click this and it's going to say, okay, let me give it a little prompt to edit or explain. So I can say, make this more dramatic, for example, and instead of it redoing the entire thing, it's just going to look at this one section of whatever we've written and only edit that section. If you don't like the change it made, that's okay. If we come up here, you can actually show the changes and you'll see a little differential here of what did it change and what did it look like. So you can always just roll it back to whatever you had before. To roll it back, you just come to these three dots up here and you just do previous version. It'll ask you, do you want to restore this version or go back to the latest version? I'm going to go back to the latest version for now, but you get the idea. You can always roll it back. ChatGPT also has this really nice suggest edits button. So we have a few options here. One is you can just hit the suggest edits button. So if I hit that and just hit enter, it's just going to look through the entire document and suggest its own edits. Once it's done suggesting its edits, you're probably going to see some sort of comment box like this. If we click that, it's going to give you whatever the suggestion it has, and then you can just hit apply if you agree with that suggestion, and it'll go in and make those changes for you. I'm not going to go through each of these because they're fairly self-explanatory, but we just have some quick options that we can use in here as well. For example, I don't know why they have this, but you can just add emojis if you want to add emojis. You can also add final polish, so it's just going to go through and do an overall edit for you. The reading level, so if we click this, it's actually going to ask you like how complex you want the reading level. And then similarly adjusting the length, you can go longer or shorter based on whatever you're trying to do, so that you don't have to type anything in. You just click your buttons, you hit send, and it'll make those changes for you. I imagine most of you are going to be using the Canvas tool for helping to write and edit things, but another great use case is for coding. Small, simple things, of course, you can't get too advanced, but if you're looking to code something up and run it to see what it looks like or what it does, you can also use the Canvas for that. So you can see I just told it to create some interactive HTML code that I can run to make it fun and interactive for this poem. So it's now written up all this code. It's still writing it. And when it's done, I'm going to be able to do the same thing where I can come in and edit whatever I want to do. And you're going to see once we're done, the options we have for those quick hit options are going to be more code focused. And then we'll actually be able to run this and see what it looks like. So the code is finished now, and you can see we can click this preview button. So I'm going to click that and we're going to see what happens here. Okay, I don't know what I'm looking at. It's pretty blank. Let's click this on and see what happens. Absolutely nothing. So I don't, it looks like it's typing it out, but you can't see anything unless I highlight it. But you get the idea. I can copy it. So I'll stop. So obviously there's some issues with this code. It's doing things it shouldn't be doing, but that actually is helpful in terms of now we can go to here. And again, we have all these side options, but you can see they're different. They're all code related now. So you can do things like add comments, add certain logs to let us know what's going wrong, fix bugs, change over to a different language. So right now this is written in React and JavaScript, TypeScript, or just do a general code review. So I'm not going to go through those, but the idea here is you can not only do normal text, but you can do this with code and actually preview what it came up with, go back and forth, change this manually yourself, whatever you want to do. And it's just a lot easier than just doing it in the normal chat functionality. The next tool we're going to use is the image generation. ChatGPT typically has one of the best image generators out there. So again, just like we did with the canvas, you can manually turn it on. So if I do create image, we're going to get some options here. I can choose a style to help me out. Let's say cyberpunk. But really all that's doing is adding, as you see, this little prompt here. And it just makes sure no matter what I say, it's going to create that image. We don't necessarily need that though. We can just say in our prompt to it, create an image, give the aspect ratio. Right now, I think ChatGPT can only do 3, portrait, square, or wide. We just give it that prompt and it should generate it. So let's try it out. I apologize for my terrible prompting, but we're just going to send this. Let's see if it can do an image of me teaching people how to use AI. So again, all I had to say was create an image or something like that. I did not tell it what I wanted the aspect ratio to be. It's important that if you don't tell it, it's usually going to just default to a square. It doesn't really like to do wide because wide costs ChatGPT more money. But so just make sure that if you have oh no, it's actually, look at this, it's doing a portrait, we can see. But either way, best practice is to tell it what you want that aspect ratio to be, so it'll output that. The model takes quite a bit of time here in ChatGPT to generate the image, so I'll pick back up with you after it's generated the image. Wow, that's actually... So this is what it created. This isn't too bad. I think this guy's a little thinner than me, but other than that, pretty good in terms of what it generated. But this isn't where you have to stop. I could just through the text be like, hey, can you make this guy a little chubbier or whatever it might be? But more likely what you want to do is actually click into the image. And you're going to see here we have this little painting thing. And you can edit things by just highlighting what you want and then telling it what you want to change. So for example, it says AI here, but I might want to change this to generative AI. So I might say, change the word AI to Gen AI. And we'll send that, and I don't know, it might or might not work. We'll see. All these image generators are very imperfect still, but it just makes it so you can have a more conversational way to edit these images right inside the platform. And there you go. I just asked it, right, to replace AI with Gen AI, and it kept the image almost exactly the same, except now this says Gen AI instead of just AI. You can take this a step further. I'm not going to show you because it's pretty straightforward, but you can also click and drag an image from your computer into here, like literally into the chat, and give it instructions like I did. Change these words to something else, or make this person look more like this, or turn it into an anime style, or whatever it might be. It's really good at taking existing images and editing over them as well. So definitely try that out. It's fun. Our next tool is web search. Again, we can do it the hard way. We can hit the plus button. We can go to more and you can click web search to make sure that it actually does the web search. But again, you don't have to do that. You can just tell it, do a web search. So we might have a query like search the web for information about how amazing Synaptic Labs is. So I'll send that. And again, as long as I'm saying web search or something in the text itself, I don't have to manually press that button. So it decided to think. I can open that up and you can see it's finding some information on us, including our website. It looked at a total of about 10 different websites. This is normal. Usually it's going to look at about 10 websites. And it's going to give us a quick breakdown of Synaptic Labs. And you can see it's actually citing the sources where it's pulling stuff from, so that you can actually follow up with where it's getting the information. And again, it's showing the sources here as well. So you can actually see, is this real? Is it giving us actual information related to what we're doing? Like, for example, this one, AI training nonprofit from Reddit, has nothing to do with us. But you can also see that it doesn't seem to have actually cited that. It understood that this is not actually something related to the question that I had asked. You can also, of course, give it a list of websites you want it to look at or a list of sources you want it to look at, and we'll follow those as well. So this is pretty straightforward. All it's doing is it's taking your question, it's turning it into more or less a Google search. It's returning a list of about 10 websites that might be relevant. It reads those websites and it'll come back to you with some citations and the answer. Next on our list is the ability to create different file types that are actually downloadable. After this, we're going to be talking about data analysis. So in this example, I'm going to have it actually create us an Excel spreadsheet with some fake data that we can mess around with. So all I'm telling it to do is to create a spreadsheet with synthetic data related to different tools generative AI can use. You'll note that there is no thing we can click on for this one. It's a little bit more of a hidden functionality, I guess you could say, because it can actually run arbitrary code right in here, as we saw earlier, which means it can actually take information, run it through code to create a specific file type that you can then download. So let's let it think for a second. It should create our spreadsheet, and then we'll convert that into other stuff just for fun. We can see it decide to use this analysis tool. So it's analyzing, but really what it's doing is using Python to create an Excel spreadsheet. You can see it's importing a variety of different things. It's created our categories that we're going to be using. And yeah, we'll just let this run through and it should give us a downloadable Excel spreadsheet. Okay, it's created our spreadsheet. It's even interactive, as you can see. Similar to the canvas now, we have a canvas with this we can work with if we want. We're going to skip that though. I'm going to download this file so you can see how it actually worked. Okay, so you can see here, it created a pretty crazy spreadsheet for us. Again, this is all made up stuff. It's all randomized. It's just information that we can play with. So now we have this in an Excel spreadsheet format, but maybe we actually want a .csv. So I'm going to say convert to a .csv. I didn't even spell convert right. And again, it's going to use this analysis tool. It took 2 seconds, and now we have our CSV file. Now I might want to say convert this into a markdown file. So convert to a markdown. And again, we should see it just analyze. It's going to run some code and it's going to download this as a markdown file and a markdown table. I'm not going to open it because it's probably going to be huge. But the idea is that you can convert into pretty much any file type you can think of. You're probably not going to be converting a CSV into a Word doc, but the idea is you can take any sort of bit of text that you're doing or whatever and convert it into the file type that you want. Now let's segue into being able to actually do data analysis on a spreadsheet. So normally you're probably going to have a spreadsheet already. You're probably not making up fake data with ChatGPT. So you can just click and drag that into your conversation and it will then have access to that. You might want to give it some information around how it's structured or just tell it to review the structure of the spreadsheet so it understands. But now you don't need to be a trained data analyst to actually run some of this data to get information you want. So for example, I just asked it, what are some analyses we can run on this spreadsheet? And it gave me a bunch of options in terms of what we could do. So I might say something like run number 2 and number 3, all of them, then create charts for each, and then write up a report and save it as a Word doc. We'll get a little bit more of this file creation in here. So I'm going to let this run. That's going to think because it's a little more complicated. But what we're going to start to see it do is, again, run some code to do these analyses on the spreadsheet and give us that information in charts. Something I will mention is whenever you upload something to ChatGPT, like a spreadsheet, it has it cached for a little while, maybe an hour or 2, whatever it might be. But then if you come back to this conversation like 2-3 hours later, it doesn't have that in its memory anymore. It doesn't have access to it. So just recognize that you might have to re-upload that document or whatever you're doing, or just try to keep whatever you're doing in that single session and download whatever you've created because it will get lost after a few hours. So the cool thing about this is, again, it's just running code. It's just running some Python. And so, for example, it has this thing where it can actually add a column. What this means, and it's not perfect, be careful, is that it can actually clean up the data. So if you know that there's some sort of pattern in the data that is broken, that's pretty common, it can write its own little script, run that, and actually manipulate that data to clean it up. Again, you got to be careful here, but it can save you tons of time for those things that you would normally have to manually go in and change them, but it's pretty much the same thing you're changing for every single cell. It can just write some code and make all those changes in one fell swoop. So this is a happy little accident. I'm going to open the Word report in just a second, but you can see it created this charts folder as images and said, go here, but I can't actually go here because it's part of ChatGPT. So something you might need to do for multiple things to download is just ask it to zip it up in a zip file so that you can download it just a little bit easier. Nice little pro tip for you. So let's go check out these files and see how it came out. First up is our report as the Word document, and you can see it's nicely formatted for us. It's included our nice little charts right here, all in place where they're supposed to be. It's filled out all the information we want, and it's done the full analysis for us and has this document right there. So this came out pretty well. Obviously, if you're doing this in real life, you want to double check, make sure these numbers line up with your intuition. Maybe run it all again to see if it comes up with the same exact thing. And if it doesn't, then you know maybe something went wrong. And you can see here, I asked it to zip up all the charts. So now I have an individual PNG for each of the charts based on the analyses it ran. So there you go. Pretty straightforward, pretty easy. Just took about a minute to create this report and run all that data. It's pretty ridiculous. Last, we have the deep research functionality. This is pretty much web search on steroids. Instead of just looking at the top 10, 20, whatever websites, it's going to go deep, crawling many layers of many different websites to gather as much information it can before creating a full report for you on the topic. Unlike other tools, at least as of recording this, where we could just say, use the thing, you can't do that with deep research. You actually have to go to the plus and hit deep research. You can see here too, it's going to let you know how many deep research calls you have and when it renews. It's also important that you can choose different sources. So for example, maybe you don't want it to use the web. Maybe you want it to just look at your Google Drive and specifically certain files and folders, or your Dropbox, your Canva. There's other ones you can connect. But if you're trying to curate the knowledge that it's looking at, this is the way to do it. You just give it the access to that information and it will just use that information. You can choose to turn off web search if you want. We're going to keep it on, and I'm just going to run this request, run deep research on Synaptic Labs to create a market research report for them. So I'm just going to hit enter, and this is going to take a little while once it starts. Before it starts, pretty much 99.9% of the time, it's going to ask you a few questions to clarify. This is super important. And up front, I probably wouldn't do such a simple one-sentence prompt. I'd be very detailed about what I'm looking for. You can even maybe use ChatGPT to help you come up with your research questions and your expected outcomes. I would highly recommend that. But either way, just as a safeguard against being too vague, it is going to ask me a bunch of different questions. In this video, I'm not going to actually answer them because I'm just trying to test it out. So I'm just going to say, dealer's choice. Start research. And you might go back and forth a few times, which is really good practice to, again, make sure you're going to have it research the thing you wanted to research specifically. Once you start, it's going to have this starting research, and in a second, it's going to start actually reading websites. If we click on it, you're going to see this little sidebar come out, and it's more or less just going to show you information in terms of the steps it's taking, and then you can switch over to the sources if you want to see where it's pulling from. This is going to take a little while, so, I'm going to pause here and we'll come back when it's all done. And we're back. So this took about 5 minutes. It got 15 sources, 44 searches, and you can see because I didn't give it enough information, it went off base pretty quickly. It found a different Synaptic Labs, a synaptic.com, all this other information that has nothing to do with us. But again, that's fine and shows the importance of being very clear up front about what you're looking for. And you can see it's talking about some other organization, not at all related to us, but it's developed this really nice in-depth report, everything having in-text citations. And I'm pretty sure if I click on this, it's actually going to take me not only to the website, but it's highlighting the exact text. Let me just zoom in here. It's highlighting the exact text that it's pulling that information from. So you can really have a good through line from what it's citing to where it got that from. This is a long report. These are super long. They're supposed to be, again, because it did a pretty significant crawl looking at 15 sources. It cites everything at the end here. And then if you want, you can hit the download button and you can see here, you can either share it with someone else through a link or just hit download and get it as a PDF or a Word document. So that's all of our ChatGPT tools that you can use, at least the ones that come standard with it. You can obviously add other things like connectors, which we'll discuss in a future video. But these are the general 6 ones you have access to. The canvas, which lets you just do things on the side, edit them right there. Your image generation, which you can actually edit the images via text as well and in painting. Web search, and then deep research on the other side. Web search, just a few websites. Deep research goes really in depth. We can create different file types and do data analyses. That's it for this video. If you're looking to learn more about how to use AI responsibly and practically, please reach out to us. Also, check out our AI readiness report, which is free and will actually give you access to one of our AI enhanced workflows for free as well. We'd love to hear from you. Reach out, and we're happy to answer any questions you might have in the comments. See you in the next one.